15 by 20. Very much that's the measurement of most jail cells anywhere in the world. I mean, it could be in the Philippines, Central America, Latin America, even the United States, in Western countries. That's the measure, very much the measurement of jail cells. And that's how people spend the day in jail, sitting. Mostly in jail cells that's supposed to fit three people. I mean, that was made for three people. There are 25 to 30 people sitting there in four tiles, just like I'm sitting at this moment. This, the four tiles floor, like there's a space next to me, next to the, one inmate, the other inmate is using another four tiles, just like I'm pointing here. Four different tiles, another person sitting here, another inmate in front of me, another inmate on my back, like sitting. But let's say that I wanna, the inmate, people like Vitaly, I'm talking about YouTuber, a prominent YouTuber in prison in the Philippines. I'm not just saying this is what's going on exactly in the Filipino jail cell, but in most jail cells, that's what's going on, that what goes on. And if it happens that if the inmate, the person, spending jail time, I mean, with a sentence or without a sentence, you can call it detention center, you can call it a minimum security prison, or medium security prison, of those very maximum security prison. You can call it either way, but it's still jail. You can people can't go nowhere. And when I'm talking about the jail system, all around any place we can think of, I'm not just talking about. I'm thinking about the justice for, of course, victims. I'm thinking, that's the first thing I'm thinking about. Justice for victims, but also justice for the person accused, who's been charged with these crimes committed. Assuming that those were committed, and if it's found guilty in the court of law, in the meantime, we just have charges. I mean, there are just charges against Vitaly, against YouTuber Vitaly in the Philippines. And in the meantime, it's going to take 2 or 3 years, very much, to conclude the process. It's a long process. There are backlog of cases in the Philippines that is not going to allow quick process of justice. But justice is justice. It depends on it depends on the country. In Latin America, other countries in Asia could be a little faster. It could not be because of the backlog of cases. And the population of the Filipino prison population is around 120,000 people in jail, which is per capita, with over 120 million Filipinos of the population of the Philippines. It's still a low percentage comparing to the United States or other Western countries. In the U.S., for instance, there are close to 2 million inmates, 2 million people spending time in prison at this moment, which is very little higher than average, in the rest of the world. So, but here we're talking about he's going to spend at least minimum 3 years in prison, because he's going to take the process, even if he's found innocent of the case, which I doubt it, because all the evidence that has been shown, the evidence, but hasn't been presented all this evidence in the court of law precisely through the process yet, and he needs to be found guilty before we trying to find him guilty on the court of social media. He's like a found guilty already. Of course, the evidence that's what it suggests. The idea that he's been presented as a Russian blogger, Russian YouTuber. Yes, that's correct. He was born in Russia, and apparently he was not apparently. The facts is that he came to the United States when he was 14 years old. By he brought by his mother. They immigrated to the United States when he was 14 years old, which means that if he's 33 like at this moment, most of his life he spent in the U.S., United States. Of course, I'm traveling to other parts, but he's been his mother most likely, she's resident of the United States, and who knows? I mean, he hasn't become citizen yet of the United States, so most likely it's the Russian embassy who's going to be assisting him in the process. I mean, the consul, I'm thinking about the consular assistance for this situation. But the Filipino law is going to prevail, of course. I mean, that's what, and we all, we're talking about justice for everyone here. I'm not for the Filipino people, for the country, of course, for him too. I mean, he deserves justice too. And the victims. First is the victims, and of course he's real quick to judge here that, oh, because this is the Russian blogger. I mean, people think, for sometimes think, when referring to nationality, I'm not saying this is the case, but of any nationalities, right? Whether this is British, Americans, or any nationality, Chinese, or Latin Americans from Latin American countries. Um, we refer when something like this happens, people always trying to refer or the nationality of the person, which is and there is some kind of little prejudice when we refer to nationality. It's like a because of a person of this, and this applies for any case, in any situation in which we think that because the person is for X nationality, let's say XY nationality, is already guilty of something. Look, at this moment as I speak, the thousands of babies that are born in different countries that we don't like, maybe, right? People we don't agree with them. So in many cases, that we think that they are the other people and we are the other ones. I mean, in the court of law, I mean, in the law, in God's law, I mean, we are God's, creatures. We're not all God's children, right? But you have to believe in Jesus Christ to become sons of God. But we all really, I mean, just because a baby has been born at this moment in some other countries that we don't really like or discuss, we tend to believe that baby is guilty of something already, which is it's kind of it's totally nonsense. I mean so there is always a little prejudice, but I'm not saying this case, in Vitaly's cases, there's a prejudice. Of course, the evidence is clear. I mean, but how we come up about creating. When I say how we creating people like Vitaly, I mean how is this just out of blue that he became like what he is? I'm not saying we, as a viewers or the rest of society, is guilty of. In a way that what he's doing, of course, he's not adult enough. I mean, he's an adult. He's 33 years old, so he's responsible for what he's doing. But the idea that, well, that all the things, I mean, his 10 million subscribers, 1.5 billion views of his sketch, of his pranks, of all his stunts that he's been doing. So how are we in some way little responsible as viewers? I'm saying in some way, meaning that we in a way we feed this cycle of in a way there is an addiction to all this issue of YouTubing and extreme cases in extreme situation doing sketch and stunts. Remember that video games? This whole thing started with using video games and for children, I mean, especially for children who are born with in the video game generation and now YouTube, I mean, social media generation. I mean, I'm not saying YouTube is bad. All I'm saying, I'm on YouTube too. YouTube is good. Social media in general is good. Don't get me wrong. But the feeding of the cycle of that, just think about it. The more extreme the pranks became that he was doing, the more he came about for the next prank to increase the extent and the extreme situation of the pranks. That made, even as the day went by, more offensive and offensive. I mean, more riskier, even riskier for his life. I mean, people doing prank just to have more views. Think about this: when he was streaming and offending a Filipino, a woman, in one of the streets in the Philippines, 35,000 people were. He was live streaming this to around 35,000 people, viewers, watching live this. Watching and enjoying these pranks. Apparently, many people, millions of people. Listen, 1.5 billion views in his career, of course. That is not one day, of course, but in his all YouTubing career, I think it's a 12 or 13 years career. in which his specialty is this. I mean, doing pranks, doing jokes. I mean, doing stunts and doing sketches like this. But and if you look closely, it started with soft pranks, like a little jokes, some comedy, some comics, things like that, and then it was a steady increase. It was more offensive to other people, to the right. So it's a, he's been in jail in another 2 or 3 countries at least because of the offensive nature of his pranks. I mean, of his, in which it was, of course, in collision with the law of those countries too, just like it happened now in the Philippines. But his viewer, the pranks, the more the pranks was like offensive to society, he, his viewership increased. So meaning there's a cycle of, we as a human being, we get, in a way, we are feeding in the cycle of creating the next Vitaly. I mean, he's the one, Vitaly is in jail, but in a way, we as viewers, in a way, are participating in creation of people like Vitaly, who he's messing up his life in a way. I mean, he's only 33 years with all the future in his hands. I mean, to be able to do many things. I mean, to get married, to just like have a normal life, just like everybody else, guys. Think about that. I mean, and of course, the news about him, the news about him is, of course, feeding the internet like crazy in the last few days. You might say, well, you too. I mean, me too. I'm one of them. Of course, I'm making a reflection on this. I'm making, if we're gonna get something out of it. I mean, and of course, if I get some views, welcome. I'm thankful for that. But hopefully, the message goes to not just to increase, I mean, to have views, but to get something out of it. We as human beings have become so much sensitive also. I mean, which is on little note side, on a side note of what Vitaly is going, in which we have become so hypersensitive about people's nationality, about people's accent, languages. I mean, people, there are different people, with different customs, with a different, culture. We have so hypersensitive about the discussion. I mean, on the street, the debate in public squares has become so toxic in a way that we all, it's about entitlement also, not just about feeding the cycle of creating the new Vitaly, the new YouTuber Vitaly, who's gonna get in trouble again. I mean, what is the next Vitaly is gonna just any moment we're gonna see it somewhere because of the millions of views people can get with that. But thinking about, I mean, the hypersensitive issue, which has linked to this issue, in which we think that was he feeling entitled to this? Is entitlement? It's also about entitlement. Was he feeling entitled to do this and get away with it, as he did in other different countries? He was in Brazil. He was in different other countries. In Mexico, I think he was in Thailand. I mean, apparently he was in jail. He was put in jail, but later on he was paying the fine. If he knew the fine is minimum fine, $100 and get away with it. I mean, or pay the victim. I mean, pay something, a little compensation. But he'll make millions. I mean, he with his viewership, with YouTube, right? So in a way, I mean, we fed to the cycle, and we feeding this cycle in a way, as a viewer. I'm talking about. I'm not saying personally. I'm not personally responsible for what he's doing. You too. I mean, you are not personally responsible for this situation going on. But we as a society, we are participating in feeding this cycle. We have become so hypersensitive of, what as how we relate to one another. I mean, which has to do with the same issue. I mean, if you're in a supermarket in line and the person is misbehaving, immediately you want to have, the first thought comes to mind, put him in jail. If you're driving and somebody passes you by, that's what is called road rage. But you are entitled, of course, for you. This is your right. I mean, everything is my right. Everything is about me. If the dog is barking across the street on my house, my place, or next dog is barking too much, I want the owner to go to jail. I mean, for anything, almost anything and everything, we wish the other people go to jail. Not me, of course. Not you. No. Oh no. I'm entitled to have my rights untouched. I'm privileged to be. I'm just being sarcastic here, guys. All I'm trying to say is the hypersensitive, how as a society we have become so hypersensitive about different issues, about nothing. I mean, even somebody's accent, somebody on the line talking in different language, or talking in English with an accent, or Spanish. This could be any language. I mean, and this happens any. I'm not saying a particular country, but especially Western countries. I mean, but in Asia, it's a reverse sometimes discrimination, it's reverse prejudice from different countries, in developing countries too. It happens in developing countries. Not This is not just particular about Western white society, but I'm not talking about race, but that's what we tend to think. But it happens in any society. I mean, we wish that that in order for us to be fulfilled, to be happy, I mean, to that sense of looking for happiness, that in order to have a fulfillment in life, to achieve that success in life, we need the other half of the population to be in jail. Whether this is our neighbor, even family members. In some cases, family members want them in jail. I mean, think of, instead of having communication, talk. I mean, to have a conversation, have a that humanity. We have lost so much humanity in a way that, guess what? I was mentioning not long ago about the amount of millions of people who are in jail in the United States, for instance, or other, in different countries. And the growing jail system population, right? In a way that almost there are some talks that in many countries people want to make more island. People Philippines has 7,000 islands, but I'm not saying every island should be a jail, but they should build a jail system. All I'm saying is that the jail system industry has growing. I mean, because why? What is the reason? In a way, we tend to think that everybody, if my rights, of course, my privacy has been violated, or that my right of way has been touched, has been cut off, that the other person should be in jail. And not just, we all make mistakes in life. I mean, people make mistakes. I'm not saying this is a small mistake. Apparently, he did. YouTuber Vitaly, he made other mistakes. And in a way, his situation became this way because in a way he was, of course, he got away with it and made money out of it because he paid the fines in different countries. But now you see how his situation has become, that he's basically facing 24 or 25 years in jail. And who knows, I mean, with a good lawyer, perhaps that could be cut in half, but still is half of his life, going in a jail system where he's going to be sitting just like I'm sitting here on the floor, 4 tiles. And if that's the way, I mean, the mental breakdown in a jail system, you can, your mental health will go insane in a way that if you want to lay down, let's say I want to lay down, I'll be using just instead of using 4 tiles, now I'll be using 12 tiles, just like that, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, as I count here, like 12 tiles. I'm 5'11", he's 6 foot tall. So if he uses, 8 or 10 tiles, depend on the floor on that. I mean, there's 25, 30 inmates there, and the seniority, is what it counts there. I mean, there's the seniority, meaning people are spending more time in jail and in charge of that jail. I mean, we're talking about the guard. Of course, the guard is in custody of the, and putting order in the jail system. But people, I mean, the other inmates are the one in charge. I mean, the freshman that comes new is the one that has to follow all the rules. And if he wants to rest and he get a little pillow, that'll cost him $5. Who's charging that $5? I mean, everything was business in the inmate community. I mean, if we can call it that, in the jail system where other inmates charge for everything, to be able to rest a little bit. I mean, this is crowded jail system. Of course, and what even government officials were talking about that, what they spend for inmate. Per inmate, they spend 70 pesos to feed the inmate, 70 Filipino pesos, which is equivalent to $1.10. $1 somewhere around that, 15 cents of a dollar. With $1.15 for the dollar, which is the equivalent of 40 cents, like I would say, like around, close to 40 cents per meal. That's for 3 meals, $1.15 per 3-day meal per day. So if you divide it 40 cents per meal per plate of food, that only pays for a bowl of rice or a little bit of noodles for inmate. I mean, this is, how nutritious that could be. I mean, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying that this, from official sources, it says that that's what the Filipino jail, in the jail system, that's what every inmate very much is the budget. That's the budget for every inmate, like $1.15 per, which is the equivalent of 70 Filipino pesos for per day per inmate to feed the inmate. So if that's as a new thing for like a people like Vitaly, I mean, he's not used to that kind of, of course, nobody's used to. I'm not used to either, and of course not you. I mean, but we all, if we have to confront that kind of life for years and years, that mentally is a mental and physical breakdown. I mean, of course they get 1 or 2 hours per day of sunshine and sunlight for vitamin D, and it's not going to be easy situation in a way that for the following few years. So hopefully this this very much little theatrical that I had to be here on the floor. It just showed the how how inmates very much live. Of course, in a crowd, the heat is amazing. I mean, this is a tropical country in the Philippines. Tropical, only about 20 feet above sea level, like most islands in the Pacific, right? And which, of course, to be able to, to resist, that kind of heat, 95-degree heat, all year long. I mean, 22 hours a day. It takes courage. It takes, it takes a lot of, hopefully, there in this jail system there are they allow visitors. Of course, they do. I'm not saying they don't. They do, of relative family member that can encourage him to, to. Of course, I wish justice for the victim. That's the first thing I say. I'm saying twice again. This is not about defending the people who committed some crime. This is not defending the criminal. This is besides, he hasn't been found guilty in the court of law, so he's not guilty until he's found guilty on the court of law by the judge, and he's been sentenced for this situation. So in the meantime, just the Philippines is a welcoming society. So just like the government official was stating a few days ago, millions of people visit Philippines. This is not about people, just to be to have like a prejudice against foreigners. Just because he's a foreigner in the Philippines doesn't mean that, of course, that there are other Filipinos who's very much doing the same time. So equally, if we are all equal under the law, we should be treated equal, of course, foreigners or locals. That's just everywhere. I mean, this is an issue of principles, right? Whether you are in Argentina or South Korea or Germany, or people should be treated equally under the law. I mean, it's a basic universal principle. And that's not new. So for in the Philippines, there are other YouTubers very much doing some pranks and stuff. This is not a new way of doing things. This been done for years, since YouTube is YouTube. I mean, of course, I mean, this is not new. That's the reason. As viewers, how much we are feeding onto this. I mean, we put in the likes. Don't get me wrong. We're touching the like button, right? The like button, just like I'm asking you sometimes to put, a like button if you like my content, right? So if he's getting thousands of millions of, likes, subscribers, of course, isn't that feeding this cycle, a vicious cycle of success, quote unquote success? But how how he has become. I mean, how even his personality has changed, over the years. For people who knew him for 15, 20 years ago, I mean, things change in life. And as we evolve as a human, definitely things change. But hopefully things are changing for the better. And hopefully he gets good counsel. I mean, legal, of course he's getting legal counsel. He has lawyers to do that. But the most important thing, guys, I mean, my message for people like him or others spending time in jail, of course, the word of Jesus Christ. Hopefully a Christian, somebody who's visiting the jail, give you a Bible to take a look, the Bible, take a look at Jesus, your friend. This could be the time maybe for a new life for you. I mean, even if the new life, I don't mean in a sarcastic way, new life in prison is it must be tough. But a new life in Jesus Christ will really be. I have seen so many testimonies of people in jail becoming Christians, and they seem to be in, filled with joy, the joy that only Jesus can bring you in your life. Wish him well. And justice, first thing is justice for all. If there are victims, justice for the victim, justice for him and for the country. Philippines is a beautiful country. Millions of people visit the Philippines, like I said before. And thousands, hundreds of thousands of people work. It's a job creating industry, tourism industry. Of course, the Philippines welcome all people from all over the world as visitors. But as we are there in the country, we should respect the law. We should respect our fellow Filipinos. I mean, and behave, the right way. And this could be any nationality. Like I said before, Vitaly is not a U.S. citizen. He was born in Russia. When he was 14 years old, he came to the United States with his mother to live there. He immigrated to the United States, but he was most of his time, of course, spent time in the United States. So in a way, he's more American than his English is very well. He speaks very well English. I mean, I assume that with his time in the United States, but of course, um, things hopefully go uh, for the positive, and then that this is an example of not this is an example of not of how not to do something like this kind of stunts or sketch, or of course sketch could be like a comedy type that people enjoy. I mean, of course YouTube is about entertainment. I'm not saying not to do pranks. All I'm saying is that if there are pranks that you can do, I mean, as a YouTuber, you do it in good taste. Even myself, I have pranks. I don't do pranks, but I just did a little sketch right now, but about showing you the tiles, how many numbers in tiles you can use. But if pranks and stunts can be done for entertainment, in good faith, without violating any law, in good taste, of course they're welcome, right? Even if you get less views. But how many views is enough? I mean, how many? If you get 1 million views for your video, oh, the next one you want 5 million views. I mean, it's never enough to fulfill that ego of success. That, of course, we all want to have as much views as possible and have our message across, of course. We all want to monetize, of course, in YouTube. I mean, well, some people say that they just do it for entertainment, to have something to do. I'm honest, guys. I wanna monetize. I have to be honest to myself too. Of course, I wanna get my message. I wanna get my videos to people to see. I have something to share to the world. I have something to share to you, just like I'm sharing it right now. So my views, life principles, especially life principles. I mean, of course, my views, my opinion known, and have an open discussion and civilized, talk, civilized conversation. A productive conversation with you guys. I mean, drop me a comment. I'll respond as soon as I can, as soon as possible. Drop me a comment if like these contents, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye. My God bless you all, guys.